You're listening to Devo Talks. In this episode,
But he told me that my advice to you is learn one thing on everything, and then everything on one thing.
Hey everyone, my name is Yan and I want to welcome you to Devo Talks, the show that's devoted to the latest advances, ideas, and trends in the world of business, IT, and cybersecurity. In today's show, you're going to have the opportunity to hear Elias Rizk, one of my friends who's traveled the world, worked for several different companies, and even built his own company called ebCard. Now, this guy is a wealth of knowledge, and I think he's perfect for the show today as we explore the idea of thriving instead of surviving in uncertain times. So let's sit back and relax and enjoy the show.
So in March 2014, my son Lucas was born, and my wife at the time wasn't working. We have my mother-in-law. She flew almost more than 3,000 kilometers to come in and help us because we didn't have any idea how to raise a baby, and I don't believe anyone knows actually. When they had their firstborn, so it was the beginning of an interesting experience. So we go fast forward until September. So around 6 months from that day, my mother-in-law went back home to Lebanon, and so this is where I decided, you know what, I'm gonna take it down an inch instead of continuing working 60 to 80 hours a week. Take it down an inch and start, maybe doing a day or two from home so I can be close to the family. And it was great because actually the hardest part of all the responsibilities were taken by my wife, Shireen, because she was off and she wasn't working. But until around February 2015, so Lucas was not even 1 year, and Shireen had a consulting job at Concordia in the IT department, and it was a great opportunity as an instructional designer. She'd be working on technology tools and teaching actually professors on how to use this with their students. So Lucas jumped from being at home a couple of days at daycare to full time at daycare. And as you know, Jan, and many, when kids start daycare, they get sick. They get sick a lot. So because of my flexibility at work, I was doing more and more remote work at the time, but it wasn't easy at all for many reasons. The first one, I'm an extrovert person, so I take energy by actually connecting with people. And every one of us actually has this part of extroversion introversion ratio, but mine is around 82 extrovert, 18 introvert. So the need of being around people is very high for me.
Sure.
And also it wasn't the same because Lucas, a year old, and he needs attention. He has needs to be fulfilled. So it wasn't a walk in the park the way when I did it when he was 6 and my wife was like all the time here, or my mother-in-law was here. So it was a completely different experience, and I can tell you something, I failed big time because I couldn't handle it. There's a lot of work. Someone who's used to we're doing 60 hours a week, being always driving forward, and having someone fragile to take care of, and both of them were like at the same. Everything was happening at the same time, so yeah. I went crazy, and it was like for more than 2 weeks. This is where I told myself, no, I have to come up with something because it's not something that is gonna be he's not gonna get sick once or twice. As long as he's in daycare for the next maybe 2 years until his immunity is strong, he's gonna continue getting sick and being at home. If you have a fever of 38 degrees, 2 days home. That's the law. So yeah. I need to figure out a way to actually work under these circumstances. And this is where I realized that I need to build routines. And I was someone who had zero routines in his life. The only routine in my life was like I used to work 60 to 80 hours a week. That's it. But I didn't have routines to when I eat or when I sleep or when I wake up. I didn't have routines to do physical activities or anything else. So I had to take a step back and say, I can't function like this. There's something, the priorities are taking care of my son and also taking care of work. So I need to find answers on how to handle this. Now, I wanted to start by this experience because, and I know the circumstances today are completely different, you know.
Sure.
Lucas is much older, but still there's certain dependency on you. You know, a 6-year-old misses his friends, misses going out. He's afraid, you know, with everything that's going on, everything that we're telling him about how to be careful every time we go out and we come back and all the precautions.
Yeah.
And there's also this fear, you know, and this uncertainty that we see around us, you know, loss of jobs, you know, world hunger that is increasing, and all of this without knowing until when actually the situation is gonna be. So the difference is now there's more independence in the house, all of us, but still because of this, you know, very unusual situation that we've lived. And I'll be very honest with you, I've lived in my life 5 wars, and it wasn't the way, you know, the situation it is today. When you have a war in the region, you have, you know, you can still actually, when there's ceasefire, or you can move regions, or you can, when there's ceasefire, you can still see other people. You can still, you know, go around or go about what you do, and have a certain more normal life than the situation today. So today's circumstances are, even with all the experience I have, are very unusual. But I realized that there's a silver lining in the entire situation. And for the first time, I realized that we've been given the gift of time. And that's something that I see a lot of people around me that are making the best out of it. But also I see a lot of people that are not.
Well, that story it's amazing how we can find parallels between different times in our life. Like you said, you went through the situation with your son, with Lucas, when he was sick, and then having to manage that, and, you know, overworking yourself, and that causes, as a man, I know, especially when you have a wife and you have kids, there's an amount of stress that it causes. But it's, if we could just contain it ourselves, that's one thing, but you know, it affects everything around you. It affects your mood, your emotions, your physical, and you can't be who you need to be for your spouse, your partner, and your child, especially. And these times stretch us. But I think that's why us talking about this today, and a little bit of your experience, that's why I wanted to tap into this a little bit, because I know we talked a little bit before, and I wanted to really draw from somebody who, first of all, is a friend of mine, and secondly, has some life experience to give. Because right now, let's be honest, having lots of degrees and having lots of knowledge can help you maybe in your tasks at work, but right now there's a human factor that I think is critical for us to be able to get through these times when it's especially uncertain, right? And it's funny because you had mentioned earlier too that some of the things we're going to talk about today, you're not originally a routine person, right? So tell me a little bit about how you do things.
Before or now, you mean?
Let's talk about before.
So Yeah, it's crazy. I used to wake up, without an alarm. Even though I've never, not I'm not gonna say respected the time to go to work, because between me and the people I worked with, there wasn't, a time that I should be there from this time to this time. If I have a meeting, I'm gonna be there. Now, I'm always late on meeting, and that's something, everyone like probably hates about me. But I can't help it. I get distracted very fast, and that's one of the things why I didn't have routines. Just quickly, I'm gonna tell you, when I was at school, I used to stand at the end of the class because I couldn't sit down. So the teacher used to put me at the end. So when he's giving the lecture or the lesson, I used to stand up because I couldn't really stay sitting. Now, actually, me doing this with you, this is something that I couldn't have done 7 years ago.
Oh,
And
wow.
even now, I'm still moving. It's hard for me, to be contained. So going back to these routines, I used to wake up and just go out without having anything. I've never had breakfast in my life. I'm not gonna say that. Maybe when I was still living with my parents, my mom used to make me, these sandwiches or cereal and milk. But since I got independent until now, like this is almost more than 20 years ago, I don't have breakfast. I used to wake up and leave and not even do my bed. I've never done my bed. So I used to go to work and then engage my work with this, like, every day was a hurricane feeling. I was like a bumblebee, and it was like, and there are so many things to do all the time, nonstop. And when the good thing is I used to take a lunch break, and with all the team, we never had lunch at the at our desks. We go to the kitchen, we have it there, but it's just a 15-minute, 20-minute, with conversations, laughing, getting to know each other, and then going back to this routine until the evening. Most of the people left. Now it's time to go back home. You go back home, you have dinner with your wife. I have dinner with my wife, and then continue doing stuff and sleeping when I'm really, like, I can't open my eyes. It can be 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, and then it follows like that. So there was absolutely nothing that I as routines, except actually like going and coming back from work.
Sure.
But without even fixed schedules. I was like, I'd go whenever, I woke up and then I come back when actually I'm feeling comfortable that I can leave the rest of the work till next day. What I can do it from home.
Now, contrast that with today. Now we'll talk about specific routines, because that's why I wanted to have you on the show, because I think this will be very valuable to the people listening and watching from home. Let's be honest. There's some people in various situations right now. There's some people that during this pandemic, they're very busy and they're working really hard, and things are actually going, we'll say, quote unquote, well. They've had to adjust, but things are going well. And on the flip side, we have loved ones, people we know that are on the opposite side of the spectrum, and yet they maybe lost their job, or they're having a hard time paying rent, getting food, and there's two different outcomes. But from conversing with you, I know that it depends on it's how we not react, but how we gauge a situation and how we act accordingly that can really make the famous, how to be successful. Sometimes we look at success as money or fame or things like that. But let's be honest, we know that that's not the measure of real success. So to be a successful husband or father or coworker or team leader or manager or CEO, there's certain practices, routines, I think, that we can put into place that no matter what stage in life we are right now, we can feel, we could put our head on our pillow at night and feel like, wow, we've accomplished something, or we did the best we could, Before we get into the actual routines, okay, I'm kind of interested because just for our audience to know a little bit about who you are, okay? I know you told the story about you not having routines before and having to deal with that, but tell me about the Elias growing up. So I know you've traveled to multiple countries in your life. You mentioned Lebanon and your mother. So tell me a little about your upbringing, just so our audience can get to know you a little bit more and know who this guy is.
Oh, well, that's I've had a very active life, so I'm gonna be concise as much as I can. And
Sure, that's fine.
so I have two brothers, and I'm the oldest one. And I've come from a very small village. To me, um, I not until I started going to university, I knew that actually people can get jobs.
Oh,
Why? Because because the village from where I come from, everyone had his own job. My father, my uncles, my aunts, the neighbors, everyone was doing the stuff that he's good at. So I
sure.
thought, this is life. You're gonna grow up, and you're gonna do things that you're good at, and then this is how you're gonna make money, and so on until I was 12 years old. I remember I went with my dad. My dad opened a computer hardware shop, and he
Okay.
started doing delivery for large companies in Lebanon. And I
Okay.
started going with him. And it was the first time I go to the city, Beirut, and I've seen all these huge, buildings, and going in, and desks, corridors, endless corridors, desks. And I started looking around and saying, what is this? And why the colors are dull, and how come people can work here? There's no sunlight, there's no fresh air, there's so is this the kind of life that you have outside the village? So
Mm,
you ask
yeah.
yourself when you are so young and so naive, yet that you actually, for you, seeing your dad and your neighbor, and like going about their day, coming back and just enjoying the rest of the night and doing what they love. They don't have a boss, they don't have so they work actually from very close by to home. They can take breaks anytime they want. There weren't, and this was a shock to me when I went there. And as I grew up, I've never actually rethought about it until a few years later. Um, by the time I had to choose my diploma in university, I was so confused. I was so
Mm,
confused. Jan, I applied to all universities in Lebanon and France, and I'm not talking about just applying, for a specific, subject.
yeah.
I applied medicine, engineering, psychology, education, math, physics.
Mm,
I didn't know what I wanted to do, and then just just like that, I went to the first class of engineering at a French Jesuit university in Lebanon,
okay.
and I started my engineering diploma there. And I knew it was the right choice because since I grew up, I had a thing for computers.
Mm,
So my dad had a Commodore 64. So by the
ah,
age of 3, I was putting
yeah.
all the elements together and write a couple of lines of codes just to run Miss Pac-Man and play on it.
Oh yeah,
And it
it's funny you say
and
that because that's the same. I grew up with the same experience. I had a Commodore 64, and I was like 6 years old, and I remember. Oh man, this is great. Okay, keep going. Sorry, go ahead.
and to me it was all my life. It was like I was exposed to that. So my dad saw my passion, since young, and he always kept these. And because also he was in computer hardware, so he kept us, and I got involved in him and seeing him. So him even being being the boss and even doing the maintenance and using screwdrivers and delivering, and he was doing everything. And I was like, and to me that was something. You know what? I want to be Mr. Do It All, and
Sure.
because again, it's awesome, to have this numerous capacities and also interests. And I'll be very honest with you, not until I was like 30, like a year before Lucas was born, in 2013, this is when actually I realized what I really loved doing. But before that, I didn't have a clue about what I wanted to do. And as you said, I moved around, and I experienced so many things. So, but technology was something that fascinated me. I was writing code since I was at school.
Okay.
I did every game show that I watched on TV. There was a couple of French, Question pour un champion. It was like a trivia game. So every game that I saw on TV, I created, the software version of it on
Oh, cool.
on discs. Yeah.
That's awesome.
And now I didn't know that you should get copyrights so you can sell that.
Oh, that's so funny.
But thank God I didn't do a fortune from that.
Yeah.
It
That's
was
so
just
funny.
between family and family who encouraged me there. So, but it was awesome seeing a few lines of codes that can come to life and make people actually enjoy it. It was really amazing for me. But again, going back to as I told you, I'm an extrovert person. I love coding and everything. I still code until now, but that's not what I wanted to do, because I want people. I want to interact with people. I wanna sit down, listen to what you have to say, and tell you what I have to say, and converse, exchange ideas, topics, learn from you, learn from me, and see what we can do together. So so that's where I said I need to find a different career than that, and I didn't know again what to choose. So I started looking for opportunities. But I want to tell you just a quick story. Uh, what happened at university and my first career. Um, I I decided to go to a very private, expensive university, and my dad told me, it's not gonna be easy. I told him I'll work, and my choice of work was to be a bartender at a pub. So that was my choice of work. I didn't know why. Uh, I didn't know much about alcohol, and I didn't know much about bartending, but I was fascinated. And I was fascinated by, so I started reading a lot about, alcohol, where it come from and so on. And I was fascinated by the people coming to the bar, sitting there and talking to you and sharing with you intimate, personal matters. It was enriching, and I was feeding on it. Again, as someone extrovert, I was getting so much energy. And
Sure.
I was working until 3 o'clock in the morning, and my university was at 9 the next day. So, and it was like almost every day. And I told myself, I have to take more projects. It's not enough. So I volunteered with the Red Cross once a week.
Okay.
So I used to work 6 times a week at night,
Wow.
and my day off was permanence. So I used to spend from 6 in the evening until 6 in the morning as a volunteer in the Red Cross for the emergency team. It's kind of like a paramedics.
Sure.
So, and I've seen things there that are so. So I had a very interesting, choice. I made very interesting choices, and every time I made a choice, honestly, I didn't think about it. I just, I want to do something. I love that. I want to do it. And I started doing it. And
Sure.
when I feel that I love something, I do it. if I don't love it, I don't do it. So that's why when I engage with something, it's on the long term. So the bartending, after 5 years university, the diploma engineering, after 5 years, I was doing 5 years bartending. At the end, I had 2 pubs for me. And with the Red Cross, I stayed 8 years. Everything I love and I embark on, it's always for the long term. But the situation in Lebanon was horrible. A lot of assassinations were happening. Economically, it wasn't. And I felt that it was too small of a country to me, to the way I think. I believe in full freedom, with accepting the other's freedom, of course, without bypassing the natural laws, that we live by. But it wasn't the case there. And also, my ambitions were to make changes that I've never felt I could make there. And I'm someone, when I see something wrong, I can tell you that it's wrong. So in Lebanon, when I used to say that, I used to go to prison. So,
I see. Yeah, sure. Well, the freedom of speech is something that sometimes we take for granted, right?
Yes.
Or the freedom of thought. And I agree. And this is all, we all have different backgrounds, different countries, different, whatever, political, religious and stuff. And it makes us who we are, but so it's right. Some we take it for granted. Even now in confinement, we do have certain freedoms, where in some places it's maybe not like that. So I'm glad you shared that.
The reason why I wanted to share this when you asked me that question, it's because I talk to a lot and I listen to a lot of my peers here, or my friends, my colleagues, and they when I share them similar stories, they have a similar reaction like yours. It's like there are so many things that here, when we live in Montreal or in developed countries, we actually really take them for granted. While in and even in Lebanon was like, it's so much better than other countries, and that have even more deeper problems. So I decided to leave, and by that time I started working with Philips out of Holland, and it was the beginning of my worldwide experience. In my life, I only worked for 3 companies, and working with these 3 companies made me actually work in 4 different continents. And as I told you, when I engage with something, it's like it's on the long term. So I did almost 4 to 5 years with each company, until with different roles. So I was like, engineer support, and then business development consulting, and then product marketing, product management. So it had nothing to do with them. And again, because I wanted to learn, and if I love something, I'm gonna go ahead and do it. And I still read a lot. And that's because actually I had a client of mine who used to come to the bar almost every night. He's one of the most successful business people I've ever met. He offered me a job when he knew I was an engineer, but it wasn't the right time for me actually to join him. But he told me that my advice to you is learn one thing on everything, and then everything on one thing. And this is Jan. It's more than 20 years ago that I have this in my mind, and printed on a sticky note here. And it's something that I live by, regardless of the topic, regardless of, I just want to know a little thing about, so that you never know how enriching your life can be when you do that.
Yeah,
it's amazing. And then what I was missing is actually knowing everything about one thing. And it's too much to say knowing everything about one thing, because it's so hard, but you can actually develop, more and more about this specific thing. And that was the part that I was missing. until I started my own business. And the funny thing is, I started my own business after a month. Lucas was born.
Oh wow, great timing there. That's a perfect. Oh my goodness! So you had two babies at once, yeah? Yeah,
So you can imagine my
that's
wife going.
amazing. Sure, she
Yeah,
was
yeah.
crazy.
She
Yeah,
was
yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
thank God she was. She was very patient with me because and I told her that I can't say anything about timing because. From Europe, I went to the Gulf, Qatar, Dubai, and then to Southeast Asia, based out of Jakarta, Indonesia, and then came to Montreal, working with between Montreal office and then the company that acquired us in Houston for a couple of years. And then I'm settled in Montreal. And I'll be very honest with you, coming here was the best decision I ever made in my life. Yeah,
That's really cool.
of course, other than marrying my wife.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, yeah. No, but those are important milestones, right? Where you settle and you build your, I guess how you build your family, and
You build your
uh,
family and
yeah.
everything.
So what led you to you started your business, okay? So what exactly? Just curious for those listening, what exactly do you guys do now, like as a business?
We have a software a platform that connects to sales, marketing, and CRM
Okay.
systems, so that we can help marketing and sales professionals to manage lead and contact data in these systems. Because,
Oh, cool.
uh, as you know, there's all marketing and sales activities are based on lead and contact data. So if you have bad data, then the results on your activities are bad. So that's where our
Absolutely.
platform comes in.
That's why I want to know your background, because the idea is it's not just about the product or the software, the company that you're delivering right now, but I think your life experience has formed, just like all of us, who we are today. So
Absolutely.
you dealing with customers and clients and partnerships and people, the people skill, I think, and the human aspect is something that's a lot of times it's missing. You can't put an algorithm to it, right? I mean, I know there's AI and there's lots of great technologies, but you can never remove the human factor. And that's when we move that's when we lose touch with reality. And I think right now, that's I guess one of the dangers is we can be at home confined, whatever the situation, but there's some important things I think that we need to realize or do that will help us keep a grip on reality, right? Because it's so easy to fade into, all right, well, you do your work, or if you're not working, just sit at home and watch TV, or you can binge Netflix and stuff. And I'm not against entertainment once in a while,
Of course.
and every person has their own moral compass. But what I'm saying is, there's a time that maybe there's a silver lining where we can focus on important things so that we keep that human factor. And one thing that I noticed, I even went to the grocery store, and I normally I love having conversations with people. I'm like you. So I love conversing and talking and chatting. And I remember the young girl that was behind the glass, because there was a distance at the cash register. I was just there talking. I was putting my bananas and my oranges and my loaf of bread and all that stuff. And I was making jokes because I had to bag my own stuff. So I'd put like 4 items. I'd run to the bag and bag it up, and I'd run back. And she was just laughing the whole time. And then she looked at me at the end, and she said, she just stopped, and I had to pay my bill. And she said, "Thank you for making me laugh and smile. I haven't done that in a while." And I was like, at that point, man, I was like, I almost got, not emotional, but you know what I'm saying? I almost got emotional. Okay, I'm just a big baby, but I did, because I thought, man, that's this poor girl. I don't know where she's from. Maybe she's living in an apartment by herself, But the reality is, we need this today.
So just to tell you, I was, for me, I was. I went to the supermarket also to buy groceries. And anyway, even before the confinement and all, we always buy groceries for the week. because again, we're so occupied during the week, so we have to plan accordingly. And so I was, for the first time in my life in Montreal, I wait in line actually to go to a grocery shop. So again, when I lived the wars back in Lebanon, this was something common, because not because it's contagious to be in the same place, but because actually there's not enough food for everyone. So they want to make sure that they're just letting people who can get the food go in. So we were waiting, and it was very cold. Behind me, there was more, maybe 10, 15 years older woman, older than me. And I saw that her hands were getting blue, her fingertips. So I started talking to her, and she started talking. And then I removed my earbuds, and I was listening to music. I removed my earbuds before I talked to her, and then I put Dance Monkey on the phone, and I put Dance Monkey on the phone with the volume up, and I started dancing, and this woman started moving with me, in her early 60s. Sure. And on the other side, there was another guy, almost my age, and he was smiling, and we were moving and dancing, and people were looking at us. Some of them are stayed neutral, which is also normal, because you can't reach out everyone's emotion.
Yeah.
But I was so happy that at least few of them, because of the music and the cold, we started moving just to get warmer, and it put a smile on us.
Yeah,
and I
absolutely.
continued carrying this. I was so happy and energized from that I've done the same thing with the cashier. So I put the music again, and while I was putting my stuff, she was dancing with me and doing it, and it was. So you know what? Every time now I go to the shop, I put music and I do it.
I think it's perspective, right, and how we see life, and I think that's why sometimes it's just the little things we do, and sometimes those things they're passed down from our parents or from our culture, but sometimes they're not. So like some of the people in our audience, they're listening to the show because they want to learn things, and sometimes it's just changing a small habit makes the world of a difference, right? And
yes.
And it starts with the little things. We're not asking people to change their life and their view, but the little things, the habits we form, the routines that we change, can really make or break situations. And I remember a good friend of mine once told me, he was one of my mentors, said that there was a lady one day when he was young, and he was she had a conversation with him, and he was saying, well, under the circumstances, things couldn't be, would be better, but under these circumstances, it's difficult. And then she looked at him, she's like, well, Sonny, what are you doing under the circumstances? And then we never thought about the ideas, like, what are you doing under the circumstances? Like, don't rise above it, And it sounds funny because he was like a young man when still, but the idea is sometimes we live under the circumstances. Yeah. You either you react or you have a different outlook on situations, right? So I'm not talking about always being too positive and the world is all falling apart. Yay! That's not what we're saying. Okay, not a false positivity, but of just being human. So let's talk about some of the things, because I love this blog that or this email that you put out. First of all, we know we're supposed to take care of our body, right? Physically. So what are some habits or routines that you have taken that you said, this is really, because like you were not a routine person, but now you've built some habits?
Absolutely. I forgot the last time I did physical exercise, honestly. And my wife is awesomely active. She does 5 times a week. Her lunch break is actually an hour of exercise. So she goes to Concordia University. She eats at her desk after, and she has twice in the morning at the gym, and she does it. And I was like, uh, I wasn't finding time, and that was what was going on in my mind until one of my friends and that this guy, Jacques Tulac, I have very high respect for him. He's actually the reason why I came to Montreal, and he told me the reason why you're not doing it, it's because it's not a priority for you. And I said to him, of course it's priority. And then I paused a bit, and he's absolutely right. I'm not prioritizing exercise, and that's why I was failing at it. And so when I mentioned physical health, before handling exercise, I had a major problem, and I believe uh, people who might listen or watch our podcast, they also maybe from time to time they feel the same thing. And the first problem is that we don't sleep well. And when I say well, it's like me and many others, we don't sleep the 8 hours that we should. And if we can do something today, is at least sleep these 8 hours. So
That's good.
the first, physical health, that also it's mental health and moral health. The beauty. This is the ultimate, like the top number one routine that I focused on, and I said I want to do this. I want to do this because this is going to help me in every aspect of my health. So we're talking the three aspects of health are physical, mental, and moral. And sleep is actually connected to the three of them. So so today you have these 24 hours. Take 8 hours of sleep and make sure they happen. Okay, and you can do it. You can do it because now you have the gift of time. So do the 8 hours. For me, it was hard in the beginning. For the first 2 weeks, I continued doing 6 hours. Until then, you know what? I added to I started doing some sports. So because now going out is very restrictive, so the weather is not always good in Montreal, and every time we have a chance to, because of the weather, Shireen, Lucas, and I would grab the bikes and go. And depending on how the weather is good, it can vary between 45 to an hour and a half. We go with bike, then we go to a very like distant place where we throw the ball, play a little bit of soccer, and enjoy and move. And that's when I started sleeping better.
Wow, that's amazing.
So the physical activity, and my wife was telling me this all the time, but I've never heard her. My wife sleeps better than me because she exercises every day. She always tells me that, but I've never heard her. Okay, she was telling me this until I've done it and I've lived it, and it brought peace about the day. It brought clarity, for the remaining for the rest of the day. So sleep and exercise are key, and you can do them. Sleep, take out the 8 hours. You have 16 hours. In the 16 hours, you can do half an hour, not more. Half an hour.
Sure.
And if you want to push, now I've been for 3 weeks. I've been doing yoga in the morning, mindfulness at noon and in the evening, and exercise in the evening. And even I have every couple of hours, push-ups. My son and I, we go and we do it face to face.
That's awesome.
And it's awesome. So every 2 hours, my watch, beeps, push up and water time. It reminds me to drink water because I also forget that.
Sure. Yeah, that's super important. Yeah,
so,
me too.
Yeah. So there are so many things that you can do at home, and there's so many. Today I'm doing yoga because one of these yoga apps are giving it for free for people because of COVID, so they can help them out. It's awesome, the mission that they're doing. So there's so many things that you can do to stay physically healthy, which is actually your number one. You have to be physically well so your moral and mental health can be also well. Because if you're not physically well, you cannot function. That's the priority one.
Absolutely. When you decided to do routines as well, when you talk about physical, is there now obviously this is not a health show, so we're not giving any medical or health advice. Okay,
No,
everybody's different. But what any habits in the way you eat or even food and things like that, like in the kitchen with your kids, what tell me a little bit about that.
Absolutely. Well, first, more than 3 years ago, we decided to go all organic for two reasons. The first reason was because of health issues. Lucas was doing some reactions on certain food, and we didn't know. And even Shireen was doing certain reaction on and allergies. So we thought, you know what? Let's make sure that we get better quality food, and we see what happens. So we started, doing that, and then the best part of it is, which is my second point, the reason why we do it. It's because we're helping so many good farmers, local farmers here, a lot. Now it's more expensive, and when we did it, we didn't think, can we afford it or not, because we didn't care. And why we didn't care? Because we knew that it's an investment on our health. And I can tell you that we feel better. And I'm talking from someone who used to drink Coca-Cola every day, McDonald's twice a week. Forget about that. Since 4 or 5 years, I've never even ate fast food or drank soda or and not because I'm preventing. I don't want to anymore. I don't feel like it because I'm eating well, and the way we enjoy food, we also encourage one local. Like it's not a restaurant nor a grocery store, but it's called Good Food. And send you.
I've heard about that.
They send you these packages, with the ingredients and the recipe, and you enjoy doing it. Yeah. And so we do a dish a week just to change, and a couple of dishes a week just to change, and see and experience, other dishes from everywhere. If you feel like having a Thai or you feel how Indonesian. And the best part is that lunch and dinner are done today in real time and enjoyed by all the family at the same time.
Yeah.
Now, this is something that we've never had except on weekends. And having it every day is one of the things that I look forward every day at 12 and at 6, because it's the family sitting together. Sometimes Lucas jumps in and he wants to do, and it's catastrophic, but I don't care. It's one of the times where actually you don't care if your son is messing the food or he's it's a disaster all over the place with sauce everywhere and salt everywhere. You don't care for that because you're just enjoying it and making it well. So cooking your and sometimes not even we do a sandwich. But even with the sandwich that we do, there's preparing the bread, cutting the cheese, putting some nice, some vegetables with it, and at the end also slicing a few, whether oranges or apples. Like it's mandatory. It's mandatory that every day we go through this kind of experience, and I believe in the saying that we are what we eat.
Yeah, I do as well. And I know it's hard because you and I both know we're both I'm from a computer science background. Most of our audience is in the IT world, or they're working with computers or whatever. That's our general audience that we talk to. And I'm telling you, I was in the same trap. I was working, 60, 80 hours a week, and it's mentally and physically taxing. The problem is it's so sad that in the culture today, the thing that drops quickly is sleep. Like you said, we don't make good food choices. So, but we think it doesn't affect us, but eating junk food and all this kind of stuff all the time, it makes a drastic effect on our body. Now, you and I can both attest to, like, when we started doing our like eating right, I'm telling you, for my diabetes, it was insane the amount of change that happened.
Absolutely.
And it was just the conscious decision. Yes, it costs more and it takes more time. But you know, one thing I know, and you would know this because the old country, right? You know, like there's something about, my family is French, my mom's side is Hungarian. And like that was something about the dinner table. Like I remember looking back, sometimes I remember sitting there like, oh, why is dinner taking 2 hours, you know? But I look back now and you know what? I cherish those moments with my grandmother and my grandfather. And because I remember going to my Hungarian grandma and she's making chicken paprikash, and you know, she's in there and she's cooking and it takes time and the smell and you help roll out the noodles. And I mean, it sounds silly today because we substitute that with fast food. I think we can always make good decisions. And one of the things that has helped me during this time is spending time with my kids in the kitchen. Like we make bread and we make, the kids love making kombucha at home, and we grow our own food. We sprout stuff. The kids love it. And I'm just going to say it like that. But sometimes, you know, fast food and watching TV is a cheap substitute for the experience you get in the kitchen with your children. And I'll say that as a dad, and I'll admit many times I failed at that, but time is precious. It's a commodity that you can't buy, right? And how you spend it, I can attest, changed my life when we did that with our family as well.
No, so absolutely. Lucas has 2 hours of TV time. And look, it's normal for the 14 hours. It's really good because he has 12 hours now with, he's going to be eating, playing on his own, playing with us, doing stuff, doing some homework also, so that he can stay and connecting with, you know, family and friends. And you said something about, you know, being on the table. We're having lunch with people that are more than 3,000 kilometers away. So we put WhatsApp on, and my mom, my dad, my wife's, you know, my in-laws, they're here with us. We're having actually that's in the weekend. We're having actually lunch together. In the case, they're 7 hours ahead of us, so they're having dinner while we're having lunch. And Lucas is engaging with you know, grandma and grandpa and talking to them, and they play games. You know, guess what I'm eating? And they, you know what? Even though she sees what he's eating, she takes him through an entire, you know. And it's fun. It's fun making these kind of activities are actually fun. And I see that we've been always like that with my family and my wife's family. But I see many people are doing it, and this is one of the things that I'm actually loving the most when I hear about them. You know, people spending time like you and me, you know, with their families, and cooking and eating well, and also, you know, connecting with others as much as possible as they can. And you know what? If I can put a smile on your face and you put a smile on the other face, you know, I think we've done a good job for today.
No, that's so true. Yeah. All right. Besides moving on from the physical, the next one I think you said was
the mental.
The mental. Sorry. Okay. So talk about some mental routines or habits that have changed that have helped you.
So I told you that I can't sit for a long period of time, and I'm very agitated. But the thing is that I've been sitting for the past hour with you. It's because I've been doing for some time now. Before the confinement, I decided to do some mindfulness. And mindfulness is a kind of, you know, meditation where you don't have to, you know, sit down in a certain posture or close your eyes and, you know, be perfectly straight or so. It just sit down the way, or stand up or lay down the way you want, and all you have to do is just focus on your breath. And when I started this, 1 minute was eternity for me.
Yeah.
It wasn't ending. And it was very hard in the beginning because I you know, when you sit down, if you take an exercise now, Jan, just breathe.
Oxygen it's amazing just to think and breathe.
Absolutely. And it was so when I realized that, I noticed that in my I never noticed my breathing, and it was like now I can feel the breath going in and out, and I started, thinking and doing it more and more. Now I do 15 minutes straight, which is for me it was like a impressive milestone. And if I can do it again, seriously, anyone can do it. And the reason why I encourage people to do it, first, uh, the the effect that it has on your mind, on and also on your body, is tremendously positive.
Mm.
So it gives you more calm, more focus, so that when and because of today, this is the time where actually we all need that. So when there's a trigger that you know and I can tell you, it's not la vie en rose that I'm living.
Mm.
I have tons of. So today, I told my wife I'm supposed to finish work at 11 in the evening, and I have problems with existing clients, with onboarding new clients because you know. People are having difficulty to pay, so everyone has his own, his own problems. I have employees I'm worried about, if this how much long it's going to continue, the cash flow, so on. So it's not la vie en rose, but at the same time, I'm keeping my smile because of activities like the activities I'm doing, the sleep, the eating well, the exercising, the
Sure.
mindfulness. You know, so the mental part is you. So you prepare your physical so that the mental can be also ready. The mental needs also food. So make sure you take your vitamins. When you take your vitamins, also you help your immunity and so on. When you do these meditation, it helps you calm down. Again, I'm not prescribing these. I'm telling from actually the results that I'm living, my wife is living, and my son is the experience that we have here, and we see the results. Regardless of the problems, my wife is doing sometimes 16 hours a day of work. She's going crazy.
Mm.
Lucas, he's been confined for 7 weeks now, and not seeing his friends and so on. But at the same time, all of us we're still smiling, and we're still
Yeah.
mentally good.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
the best part of staying mentally good, now, regardless if you lost your job or not, um, and if you're not, also you have to be careful, because if you didn't lose your job, like you said in the beginning of the podcast, you can, and if you don't have kids, you can easily make your life evolve around work, and just work. And I know many people who are just working, which is something that I don't encourage personally, because uh, it's a short run.
Sure.
The long run, because this is really this is a marathon, and I don't want to be cliche, but it really is. So we have to be careful about how we spend, and how we do the balance. So you have those who have work and lots of work, like us, but we still, I I have tons of work, but I do 8 hours, and that's it. The other 8 hours are going to be for me, for my family, and for the community. If there's something I can do for my community, when
Yeah.
there's something I can do for my community. So this is how I spend my time. And for those who lost their jobs, unfortunately, it's disappointing, of course. But look, before I started ebCard, I was kicked out of my last job. It doesn't stop you from trying, at least, and doing something that you love to do. Create projects, whatever it takes. Just, of course, don't sit in front of the TV. Let the TV till 11 in the evening. At 11, yes. At 11,
Sure.
or 10 o'clock in the evening, you can put your glass of wine or beer or whatever, or nothing, and just watch TV for an hour and a half. But before that, there's so much that people can do during the day that can help them in
Yeah.
so many ways, and help the one that are next to you, and even if they're farther away, but virtually connected, you can help them. So you can create these work, and be, and you have to, because this is the only way you're going to be mentally healthy. So when it comes to mental health, these are the things that and I love reading. So I read around 12 books a year. So now I double that. Instead of reading one book a month, I'm reading one book a couple of weeks. So this is something that I love doing, and people, everyone has a passion, so they can follow this passion and do any project that's going to keep them engaged, mentally.
It's funny when you read a lot in a fast-paced world. Now it's even more challenging to you have to put the phone away. Like, you put it somewhere and you don't touch it. You just have to sit down and read a book, and sometimes even go outside and smell the roses. The expression, like, sometimes I'll go outside on my back porch. I have a back porch, so I'm lucky and I have a backyard, but I could sit there, I just drink my coffee and I look and I watch the birds, and I just think about things I'm going to do that day, or just spend time and be quiet, and reflect. Because I think if you read, you discover that people who made some of the best inventions, they didn't do these because they were busy and stressed out and working 80 hours a week. Some of the best inventions and creations were people sitting on an apple tree, or sitting, playing an instrument in the woods. Really, some of the greatest things that have ever happened, or decisions, or impacts on society and life, were from people who just took time to not do anything, just sit on the front porch and drink a glass of sweet tea, like they do in the South. But we all have to kind of sit back at one point. And I think what an opportunity to really focus and focus on ourselves and our family and our values and the things that are important to us. Because, like you said, it's a marathon. And if we don't do it right now, what will happen when things do go back to normal, if they ever do, right? But I think this is it's a test of character, but it's also, let's not squander the opportunity. And I don't want to put it like that, but it is an opportunity to either succeed or fail, or not change at all, So physical, mental, what was the last one that you thought would be, or maybe not the last one, but one of the ones that you thought were important?
No, it's about, morally. Because there's so when you have uncertainty, there's always where your morale can drop. So everything that actually you probably your entire belief system can actually even collapse. And so the moral part is very important, so that we can we can actually continue. And the way I see this, like you said, it's very important to decide today what I'm going to do with my time, because that time I'm not getting it back again. And when I decide to, when I say that I want to become better and I want to make the most out of these 16 hours that I have, and I want to sleep the rest 8 hours so I can be healthier. When we put in our mind that we have given this gift of time, and then decide, what, I want to make the best out of it, the outcome is, the way I see it, and the way I feel it actually, is tremendously beautiful. Again, this is not la vie en rose. Things are not for anyone, but it doesn't stop you from being, from smiling.
Sure.
There's an amazing movie. It's an Italian movie. I think it's called La vie est belle, Beautiful
Okay.
Life, A
Yeah.
Beautiful Life. And it talks about a dad with his son at a concentration camp during the World War, and how the dad was all the time is smiling and playing games with his son, even though they are, and this is one of the movies that I watched, and I realized that, oh my God, how can you keep on having this? And that's why you see me smiling regardless of everything that's happening, because nothing is gonna take my smile away. Because smiling is, and the reason why also I keep on smiling, it's because many people, they don't know. They think, when you're happy, you smile, and they don't know that if you smile, you can make yourself happy.
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
it's a two-way communication between your smile and your brain. And actually, neuroscience figured this out just recently, a few years ago, and it's amazing. And that's why I keep on this smile to keep the morale up. So when you decide to do this, the outcome, you're gonna be healthier, you're gonna be stronger, you're gonna be more disciplined and organized, you're gonna be more educated and knowledgeable, and also you're gonna be more curious and creative. So when I look at such an outcome, it's motivational. It's only motivational to follow the path and towards that outcome. Because look, we've been tested throughout time in such difficulties, the Spanish flu, and before that. So everything is gonna come to an end, even the COVID pandemic. Now, if we envision ourselves at the end, let's forget about if we still have our jobs or not. Let's talk about us as human beings, as a father, as a friend, as a mother, as a child, as a parent, or as a brother, a sister, a partner, a colleague, anything. Who I want to be when this ends up. And when I look being healthier, being stronger, being more organized and disciplined, more knowledgeable, when you decide you want to be that one, being healthy, physically, mentally, and morally, is going to become much easier to apply whatever you like. I love running. I'm not telling you go run half an hour. I love
Sure. Yeah.
biking. Maybe you love taking a racket and playing tennis against the wall. Just whatever it takes, whatever you love, do it. And just, I love reading. If you like watching documentaries, it's anything that can really help you get this outcome at the end. We're not gonna get this experience in our lifetime. I don't think we're gonna get this experience again, where actually we have that amount of time to actually use it for our benefit.
Wow, that's true. Yeah.
And if you have kids, play with them. And you know what I'm talking about. Play with them.
No, it's so true.
Amazing, the curiosity they have, the questions they ask, the creativity that they can bring you. I'm telling you, Jan, I feel myself sometimes being more creative at work because of the activities I do with Lucas. It's amazing. And I see it with other people on LinkedIn. There's a guy, Matthew, I connected with him on LinkedIn. Every Wednesday he shares basic dad stuff.
Yeah.
He thinks that he does good. He's had 3 kids or 4 kids, and it's like, and it's amazing how he's reading books to them, and he's sharing the lessons that he's learning from these books. It's again I keep on repeating, it's not la vie en rose, but every so every glass there's a part where it's actually full. So if we focus on this part and we keep on smiling, we keep on pushing, the outcome is remarkably beautiful.
Absolutely. Oh, that's so good. What would you say to people? Because I know as you and I, we live the dad's life, so we have our wives and our children, and that keeps us very occupied. But we are in a segment of society, in a family unit, that we have people to be around. Now, I personally have some really good coworkers and friends and loved ones that right now they're confined and they're by themselves, whether they're elderly or young. I know we talked about physical things and staying active and doing things. Is there anything specific that you would say that might be a help to them, especially this time? Because the social, whether you're introvert or extrovert, there's a danger on both sides. So if you're an introvert, you might be used to it, but it's not healthy. But if you're an extrovert, you might be used to lots of people. And if you don't have the people connection, that might not be healthy as well. So what would you say to some folks that might be really struggling with this? And we feel for that,
Well, I have a few friends and colleagues like that, and what they're experiencing, because we're exchanging ideas, and I love that, because to learn what also we can do even better here, my wife and I, and with Lucas, and one of them, his name is Nasib, and he lives alone. From every now and then his sister comes over, but it's like not every day, and because their family somehow, okay, they allow this kind of connection to
Sure.
take place. The way he was telling me, he was going about it, he was like, he was connecting virtually with colleagues, with friends, with families. We have all these free tools that we can use to, so that you and I, we feel even close together. It's really scary. It's really scary. This might become, the new reality in the near future.
Sure.
But maybe for our generation, it's not the same thing. It's sure not is the same thing, but at least he's loving going about it. He connects on house party, to play games, social games,
Oh, yeah.
also while doing it. Yeah, we play, him and I, Quiz Planet without connecting. So whenever we have time, so we do a little trivia together. And the best part is that he's been reading some stuff that has nothing to do with his job. He's a project manager at a telco company, and the work is being, because he's overwhelmed at work, but at the same time he's reading about home maintenance and property management and things, so, and he repainted his house, and he's doing some stuff, going to Home Depot, getting small things, and crafting parts in his for his apartment, and so on. And that's one example. I have another friend of mine. He's separated from his family. He works in Dubai, and they closed the airport for him to go to see his family. He has 3 kids and a wife, and he can't even get to them. And his company stopped work, so he's actually by himself, away from his family, all the time. And we've been connecting many times a week and talking. And I see it's all about again looking at things. He's reading a lot. He's watching TV at night. He's exercising a lot, doing yoga. By nature, he's a very Zen person. He's one of my closest friends, actually, and he's cooking his own meals and eating. While he eats, he connects with the family remotely, so they can eat together. It's not the perfect life, but this is what he can do today. He's accepting it, and he's making the best out of it. being away from your three kids, with the elder one is 3 years old. It's not easy. And knowing that your wife is doing all this by herself and the kids are alone at home and so on, so it's not easy. But he made a decision. I'm gonna make it out of this. Completely sane and completely in a good health. I'm not gonna let it um, eat me alive, or I will take the best out of me. So I'm gonna make the best out of it. I'm gonna take care of my physical health, my mental health, and keep my moral, as well as I can, so I can come out of this and see my family back again the right way. So there's no magic recipe that you can have, but there's one thing that is common to everyone. We all now have the same amount of time confined at home that we can use to make the best out of it. That's the common thing between all of us. And what we're gonna do today with these hours is gonna make us way better or way worse in the future. And if you know what, if you feel like talking, I've seen this video. My wife showed it to me in Spain. People on the balcony, they made a concert.
Yeah.
So, a drummer, a pianist, a guitarist, and they were like on the balcony and they started playing the same song, and people on the balcony were dancing and so on.
That's cool.
Whatever it is, if you're feeling lonely, go on the balcony, put the music loud and dance. People are going to come up from the other balcony and they're going to see, and maybe they're going to dance with you. I don't know, but definitely they're not gonna shout at you or tell you, unless you do it at 2 in the morning. Don't do that. But you can do so many things, so many things to just reconnect. I go on the balcony and I talk with my neighbor from balcony to balcony every night around 6:30, just to check up on him, because he lives alone, and but he's so busy at work that he's making it. But at night, around the evening, we talk, and just from balcony to balcony, it's more than 2 meters away. So there's so many things to do. The list, your mind, as whatever you can imagine, you can do it, just to not feel this loneliness.
That's encouraging, because I think that there's several outcomes. I know we talked about that in our previous call, but you really have to decide today, amidst the circumstances, whether you're going to live, under them or above them, and because we can't change what's happening. Sometimes there's things that are under our control. Like in times past, a lot of times people are like, you don't like your job, quit and get another job. You don't like this, do something else. You are in control. There's some things you just can't control today. So, but you can control how you react or how you act, to the situation. And I think, as long as we try to do the best thing we can, within the guidelines of whether that's mindfulness or spirituality or morality, or the things of physically, mentally, emotionally, we keep those things in check, I think we'll have the desired outcome. And we can thrive and through something like this, instead of just surviving, right?
Absolutely. And everybody loves music, so listen more to music and just put everybody. Look, no one doesn't like music. I don't.
There's all sorts of flavors, but
I don't know. There's all sorts of genres. But whatever, put the genre you like. You like folk, pop, death metal, trance, whatever. Just music can help a lot. And whenever the weather is bad, like today, it's not that bad, but whenever it's heavy raining and so on, we put some music and we just dance. We just dance.
Sure.
Like the story I told you was I danced with two completely strangers while waiting for waiting for us for our turn to go into the supermarket. Uh, the limit is actually your imagination about having fun and making the best out of it. It's
Yeah.
your call. You can be as creative as you want, or you decide not to do anything. But when you decide you want to do something about it, I don't believe that anything can stop you.
That's cool.
So that's I believe in that, and I'm gonna tell you why in a very short story.
Sure.
You have kids, right? You have kids, right?
Yeah, I've got 3. Yeah.
You've got 3. The first one, when they were born and they started trying to sit down, how many times they fell?
Oh, hundreds of times.
When they tried to stand up, how many times they fell?
Oh yeah, equally.
And when they walk and so on. So there's something about us humans that is really, really impressive. It takes us a very long time. So it's like more than a year. We fall many times, countless times, but we still try and retry and retry. Our brains are, I think, are wired in a way where whenever we fall, we're gonna work hard and try again. We have this in our genes. This is how we were when we were kids, when we were babies. You know. So I believe that because this is something natural that you were brought up with, you can apply it today and any time in your life, and this is when 2 days ago Lucas was biking next to me and he did a maneuver and he fell and the bike was on him and I didn't help him to stand up, so I was next to him and I was like, hey, you good, boo? He said yes, I'm my leg is hurting, and I was like, but can you move it? He said, yes, I can move it. And I told him, can you get up? He said, yes, I can get up. So I told him, okay, then get up. It doesn't mean that I don't love my son or I wasn't worried about him, or no. It's just he. This is the more we learn to, as we're young, to deal with such fallouts. The more we're gonna be able to do them as we grow up. Now, going back to the basics, let's say every one of us fell when trying to sit down or stand up or walking since they are babies, and we still did it. And the proof of that is all these remarkable people around the world that made it through so many even horrifying circumstances, so if we keep this in mind, that we can do it because this is how we are built,
Sure.
then it's only our decision. We need to say, I want to do it, and that's it.
We just have to connect back to just being real and authentic with ourselves, and learning and exploring and taking the time to do those things. And like you said, the human resolve is so powerful. I was, it's not funny, but when you were saying you're giving your last story, and we'll close with this, but I was talking to my grandfather on the phone the other day, and it's weird how today society has we've been trained by society and media and things like that to react certain ways because of certain things. So sometimes the internet cuts out, and oh man, the kid, what do you do to the kids? Don't know what to do, and things like a virus comes, and then that halts everything in society. Everything has changed the way we live and do our lives. But it's funny because I was talking to my grandfather about it. I was like, how are you doing with it? And he's alone, and he's older, and he's like, well, every day I go out and walk around my garden, and and getting things ready for planting and the tomatoes, and I'm spending time reading. And it's funny because his life, he's actually not much has changed in his reaction, because he's always been self-developing, learning, reading, studying, and doing like that. That he's always had a smile on his face, and he's always. I mean, this is the guy that. I mean, when he was 6 years old, living in France. I mean, German, panzers rolled into his town and occupied his village. And what I'm saying is, we think today, how would we react at that? But he overcame with the resolve and difficulties and challenges in life, and now he went from that to, like, imagine a life traumatic thing, like you said, the experiences you've been through, and then now we have he's a grandfather, and he's got lots of grandkids, and sure, we can't see us, but he's staying busy. He's thriving even but the second we let go of that, because he was telling me tragically a lot of his friends are not doing the same thing, and it's a very fast decline, especially when you get older. So I think it's a lesson for us to learn that we've overcome lots of things in your life, my life, our grandparents' life, our forefathers and ancestors' lives, and we're going to get through this. And I think by doing the things that you said today, building the routines and the habits, I think we can do well through these situations. And hopefully this will make us make society a better place, as an outcome, from this. So,
look, as I mentioned earlier in the beginning, I used to work, 60 plus hours a week, and for the first time, I can feel time. It still goes so fast, it's crazy, because we're super busy. But for the first time, I'm actually I'm being in charge of my life, which is completely like how it should be. So it's what you decide to do today that can make it really make you a way better person today, tomorrow, and after.
Well, thank you so much, Elias. Man, I had such a great time talking to you.
I love it.
And
thank you.
I really enjoy these talks. It's helped me, and I think the people that are listening at home, who have more time to listen now, will enjoy it, or if they're watching on YouTube, they'll enjoy it as well. So thank you so much for taking the time out of your week. And if people want to get in touch with you, or they want to follow you, I'm not sure if you're into social media and all that kind of stuff, but what would be the best place for people to reach out to you and just get a hold of you?
They can reach out to me on LinkedIn. And usually if someone even asks me my email or my phone number, I depending on the reason, I give it. Again, I love connecting with people, so they can reach me on LinkedIn, and we can chat. I have almost every day in the evening time to look at all these requests and answer back.
Okay, great. So I'll make sure I put those your LinkedIn your profile in the show notes, so that way people can click on it if they want to get a hold of you. All right. Well, anyway, thank you, Elias. Thank you so much that we took the time together. I really appreciate this, and thank you once again for this time.